Hey everyone, it's Susan and Toby with Movement Mortgage, Better Homes and Gardens, and we're here just with our real estate talks. Let's start off with the $100 down program. I shared a lot with my HUD training and with the agents locally, and a lot of times the agents are like, okay, what's the catch? Seriously, $100 down versus 3.5%.
Right.
But there's two things that need to work with that. First, has to be an FHA buyer, and they have to be purchasing or bidding on a HUD home.
Right.
But if you can talk us through what exactly the HUD $100 down program is.
Right. So it's literally taking an FHA loan, and instead of the down payment being 3.5%, it's just $100.
That's a huge saving because you can take that money and roll it into closing costs.
Exactly.
Assistance.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of savings to the buyer. Normal FHA guidelines, just $100 down.
Okay. And what's your minimum credit score?
Minimum credit score would be 580. Closed one last month for mother and daughter.
Okay.
Had 580 and 592, and we were able to get it done.
Right. Now with the HUD properties, sometimes they do have a little scratch and dent. You know? A lot of it's cosmetic. They're still phenomenal. They're really great opportunities to purchase. Let's say if we have a property that's coded IE, which means insurable with escrow. So someone's repairs need to be taken care of to meet that FHA standard, that minimum repair standard. But of course HUD won't allow any repairs prior to closing. Can someone still use that $100 down program and escrow funds?
Yeah. So when it comes to the escrowed funds, those are typically noted on the contract, right? We usually have a dollar amount that HUD's allotted. And it's basically financed into the loan and then held in escrow for after the repairs are done. And the down payment's still $100.
So let's give an example on that. We have a property, someone's purchasing it for $200,000. They're using the $100 down program. It's an FHA buyer on a HUD house. It's coded IE. IE means repairs under $10,000, and there's no structural issues with the property. So they can finance in up to $10,000 in escrow. Be mindful, we never want to increase the bid amount.
Right.
It's the loan amount. And I tell people when you're bidding on a HUD home store, don't add any escrows to that purchase price because you're just giving HUD extra money. They think you're overbidding it.
Exactly.
So you still want to bid $200, but if you think repairs are $8,500, and then the loan would be different.
Right.
But it's interesting, you and I discussed last time that even though if the escrows came in at $8,500, the purchaser would have to qualify for $8,500. But the property wouldn't have to appraise for that, right?
Correct. So the appraised value we're looking for is the purchase price.
Okay.
The escrow that HUD is giving is financed, but
Now we say giving, not as in they're going to give us money.
Allowing,
but they
we should
allowing,
say.
right?
Right, allowing.
Sometimes people say, "Oh, HUD's going to give me that money."
Right.
When will HUD pay the escrows? And I'm like, "No, HUD's not paying the escrows."
unless
For
it's
you.
HUD-based payment, right?
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really the value in the purchase price that we're looking at, and HUD is allowing us to escrow on top of that.
Okay. So let's get down and kind of the weeds on that. I have a lot of agents ask me, "All right, Susan, so the escrows are going to be $8,500. What do we do? Like, who's responsible? Do I get the contractors? Is the lender going to select the contractors for me? How do I vet this? Does my buyer ultimately choose the bids and the contractor?"
Right. So when it comes to the contractor, we really leave that to the buyer to find. Right.
Yeah.
There's some liability involved there.
So you're not going to be involved in that, but you will vet them on package.
We'll vet them. Right. Exactly. We'll get
But the selection's on the buyer.
selections on the buyer,
Okay.
and we'll make sure to the best of our ability that we've looked at other people that they've worked for, referrals basically, other people that they've done jobs for, and we'll get a copy of their license to make sure that they're insured to be able to do the work.
Okay. So with our states, they have to be licensed A, B, or C, and you want to use a contractor depending on their license, their specialty, and the amounts. Of course, with our C contractors, they can bid up to $10,000, so we're fine on the IE, but anything over $10,000 we have to go to a contractor license B or A. And if there's anything especially HVAC, electric, plumbing, they'd have to have a specialty license. So it's not really just a handyman.
Right.
We have to have someone that's licensed and insured, and you're also actually going to ask for references, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the word I was looking for.
References, right? Toby and I are both having issues with words today. November, woo! It's almost done. You know, Thanksgiving's this
Yes.
Thursday. Yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
you'll have references, and then you'll vet them as well.
Right.
And it is important to note, Toby will tell you this, that when you use that contractor, make sure that their license isn't about to expire
Yes.
or their insurance is about to expire, and get that quickly renewed. We've had loans postponed.
Sure.
Because right at the moment, their license expired.
Right.
Or their insurance expired. They're like, oh no, I renewed that, but where's it at?
Right.
You need to give us the updated license. Because they check all those things on D4, that's our department, regulatory oversight board here locally.
Right.
On it.
Yep.
So you talked about lead-based paint. That's a great point to bring up. If it's an FHA buyer buying a HUD house, built prior to 1978, HUD on its own accord will send out the lead-based paint inspector. If they find lead-based paints, if it's under $4,000 to abate that, the peeling of the paint, HUD will pay for that under $4,000. If it exceeds $4,000, what happens with it? Turns into
Yeah, then we've got to get a contract. Well, we had to get a contractor anyway, but then we've got to get a full bid with the full amount to make sure that we can escrow for that.
So let's talk about that, getting into the nuts and bolts of it. It's $200,000. It was an IE. We're stating it's $8,500. So we're still in a 203B with repair escrow. But now the lead-based paint portion comes in. The lead-based paint inspector says it's going to be over. Let's say it's going to be $8,000. Now we go into a 203K, right? Is there different qualifications for that? What happens to the loan?
So when it comes to 203K, we've got to make sure that the borrower is going to qualify with everything that's being added to the loan amount. Same as with the escrow, right? If we're adding up to $10,000 in the escrow, we've got to make sure that the buyer still qualifies for that because it is affecting their loan amount.
Right. So if we ideally 200,000, we went up to 208 with the 203B with repair escrow, so we're good. Lead-based paint comes in and says, oh wow, it's going to be like 8,000, but HUD will pay up to 4,000. So now we have another 4,000 on the back end, so that pushes them up to 212 now. So now we have to go to a 203K.
Right.
We can't stay in that 203B
right.
Environment. So
yeah, and because assuming it's cosmetic stuff, right? Then we're looking at a streamlined 203K.
Okay.
Streamlined and 203K is kind of an oxymoron.
Right.
Basically, what it means is
I do a streamline 203K.
Yeah,
But you can.
right. Basically, what that means is we don't need a HUD inspector.
Okay.
If we're not doing structural repairs, then we just need contractor's bids, not a HUD inspector.
Okay. But if the termites, so also another thing, great point, is FHA buyer, HUD home, they built prior to 1978, they will order the lead-based paint. They will also order the termite moisture inspection with their own vendor. They will pay for treatments, but they will not pay for repairs. So let's say something comes back with repairs needed on the crawl space. The moment the term cistern joists, any type of work done, repair under the house, that will then trigger what? The word is called?
Full 203K.
Because what triggered that? Structural.
Yes.
So when we hear that word, when we hear the word structural, and that would be, and people would say, well, Susan, it's not structural, it's got a sister two joist. It's structural.
Yeah, it's holding the house up.
It's holding the house up, so that's considered structural. So now we go into the 203K.
Right.
Even if it's under $10,000,
yeah,
we still go to 203K, but not streamline. It's
full 203K.
full 203K.
Right.
And is there a difference? The nuances, qualification,
No.
processes?
No, it's all the same. The only difference is we now have to make sure that the HUD inspector's HUD work write-up is in line with our contractor's bids.
So you said HUD inspector.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. So we're moving forward. We're like, oh, we're doing a 203B with escrows. We're under 10,000. Lead-based paint inspection comes back. No, okay, we push this in a 203K. We can still go streamline. We're good. The moisture termite inspection comes in. Oh, we have to sister some joists. We're now what? 203K, full blown.
Right.
And we can go to all those different segments, right, in one loan.
We can.
Okay.
It's definitely doable, and it's happened before, right? It's more so a matter of regulating expectation of the buyer, right? So when you go from streamlined to full blown, you're just right off the bat adding at least $1,000 to the cost, and that would be primarily due to the HUD inspector.
Because the HUD inspector has to come out now.
Yep, he's got to go out.
So 203B, we're good,
Mm-hmm.
repair escrow, you can just do your normal home inspection.
Right.
We go to a 203K, you're gonna require a HUD inspector to come out
For a full 203K.
for a full, not a
Exactly.
streamline, but a full 203K.
Right.
Okay.
And that's
who has to
where-
pay for that?
The buyer.
The buyer does, okay.
And we do have recommendations for HUD inspectors.
Okay. What if an agent says, well, I did a home inspection? What's the difference to an agent between a home inspection and a HUD inspector?
The home inspection is good,
Uh-huh.
although not required. The HUD inspector is the one licensed by HUD, insured by HUD, to give information that he can be held accountable for.
Okay.
Right? So a home inspector can go out, do a home inspection. That's good. It's good information, but the certified
The next step.
information,
Alright.
will actually come from the HUD
Right.
inspector.
And they're gonna give their write-up,
Right.
and they propose what the cost will be. They don't actually do the repairs.
Right.
But then you'll go out and get 2 corresponding bids. It's up to, are they required to get 2 bids?
No,
But it's smart.
it's smart,
It's smart to get 2 or 3 bids to compare. the
especially
bids.
these days.
Yes, right.
Yes, very smart.
When are the repairs required to be completed? So we move forward, we do the 203K full-blown, they qualify, now, another question, with a 203B repair escrow, the house doesn't have to appraise for the
Correct.
repairs, because we're under 10,000.
Right.
We go to a 203K, does the house now have to appraise
Yes.
with the repairs?
Right.
Okay.
This is where the repairs start affecting value in the appraisal. So when we get our appraisal, what we're looking for is after repaired value.
Okay,
If the repairs that are being done aren't adding value, or you're not getting somewhat of a deal going in, then you could potentially have an issue with the amount that you can finance. And technically, it's not that you can't do the 203K, but it will affect how much you can finance. Well, how would you do a 203K without financing it? Well, you would bring the money to closing.
okay. So
Which
there's a
some people
workaround.
have done.
Right,
Right.
there's a workaround.
Yeah, most instances that we run into with that are if people are doing paint and carpet and AC.
Okay.
Right? Well, how much value does paint, carpet, and AC add? None.
Now, it's not a huge contributory value.
You can't
Those
have
things
a
are
house
required
without
it.
Right.
It's like, how much
exactly.
is a roof add? Well, I have to have a roof.
You gotta have
a
a roof. Right. So if you're not getting a deal up front, the only way to do the 2 or 3K would be to bring that escrow out of pocket.
Are there any benefits to, when you're making the repairs, to have energy efficient systems brought into it?
Yes.
Okay. Toby's like, yes. But as it a benefit to the loan, taxes, anything like that, write-off or?
Energy efficient can be beneficial when it comes to the savings that you've seen after the cost you've incurred.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
So
The
that's
long
really
term.
the long
Long
term.
term,
That's
right.
really where you've got to be aware of, are you okay with the upfront cost, and are you okay with when you start to see those savings?
Savings. Okay.
I don't want to discourage anybody from doing it.
But it's a smart, it could be potentially a really smart investment.
It
doing
can
the,
be.
the energy and savings.
Right.
One. So we talked about the 203B with escrow, under 10,000, the processes. If we go into the 203K, the loan and then the appraisal amount, moving on from there, I would, what if we're not allowed to turn on water or electric?
So
What's a workaround on that with the appraiser?
So that would affect our contingency reserve.
Okay.
So when you're doing a 2 or 3K, you have 10, 15, or 20% contingency reserve that we've got to collect.
Okay.
Depending on the condition of the electric and the water and sewer, that will determine how much of a contingency reserve we have to collect. If those things aren't on, typically it's the max of 20%.
20% of what?
The total repair cost.
Okay, so if the repair cost are $10,000, you're gonna do a 20% reserve of the $10,000.
Exactly.
So it'll be an additional $2,000 out of the
Exactly.
reserve. If we're doing a 203B with escrow, we're under 10, but water's not allowed to be turned on because when the FSM did their inspection, and they did a pressure test, they found the pressure didn't hold. Can they still move forward with the 203B, or at that point, does it have to go to a 203K?
That's a good question.
Okay. I'm told these what ifs. Because it's important, because I want to give people the best plan to navigate these homes to help homeownership.
Right.
To help owner occupants with HUD homes. I think it's the
'Cause
best way to stabilize markets
If
and
it
reinvigorate
can happen,
communities.
it will happen, right?
Right, especially in real estate. I tell people, you know, hope is great, but it's not a strategy and it's not a business plan. So we have to have a really good laid out strategy, business plan, working through the what if scenarios.
Yes.
So do we have an answer to that?
No. I can get you an answer.
Okay,
though.
we have to work on that.
Yes.
Right. Okay, but there is a possibility and there's a workaround on that. I would love for you to share with me one of the best stories you had with a 203K loan
Yeah.
and a family.
Yep, it was, it's really the reason that I love the 203K. So it was a few years ago, and it was mom and dad, and they had 5 kids, so 7 people total, right?
Okay.
Tough to find a house that's going to accommodate a family of 7.
Yeah.
So
all those bedrooms.
Yeah, exactly. So they found an older home, and it was in rough shape, and they bought it for $50.
Okay.
They had to put another $35 into it. The after improved value of this house was $150,000.
Wow.
Right.
That equity. Instant.
A lot
of equity. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, that's kind of our ideal situation with a 203K.
That is so rewarding.
It is. And you know, one of the other ones, which may sound like it's not as great, but I really think it is an instance where a first-time home buyer was buying his first townhouse. Mm-hmm. And it needed the paint, carpet, and AC unit, right?
Okay.
The after improved value wasn't there, but he was able to get a gift, bring that escrow to closing, and was able to get into the house with the 203K, even though he did have to get a gift to bring those funds, but that was 7 years ago. So imagine what that townhouse is worth today.
now.
Exactly.
Right. And that was an owner occupant. And I love helping owner occupants into these HUD homes and having them actualize homeownership.
Right.
And it's not overwhelming. It really isn't.
Right.
There's a plan for everything, and having skilled lenders, your appraisers, your title companies, your real estate agents really navigating through the whole process.
Right.
It's powerful. Those are great stories. Right. Anything else you want to share about the 203Bs and the 203Ks?
I think that's about everything. You know, one of the big misconceptions that I run across when it comes to the FHA is that it's only for first-time home buyers, but it's not.
Okay, that's a great point.
Yep, it doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer or not, you can still get an FHA loan.
Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation with one of my agents yesterday. She was like, yeah, they want to buy this house, they're doing conventional. I said, I think conventional is great, but you still have to, you know, anywhere from 5 to 20% down.
Right.
I said, you know, they've got the $100 down program. See if they qualify for FHA. And once again, they're like, oh, they're a second-time home buyer.
Right. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, you
Right.
know. And so it's important to have all this information with it.
Right.
Great, Toby. Thanks for sharing with us. Great information today.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Make it a great day.